There is no one size fits all or a simple fix when it comes to your well-being. Hi, my name's Josephine, founder of Positivity Center and Wellbeing Consultant, and a person figuring out how to be my best. So join me in conversation with friends, sharing what works for them, and then listen to what works for others so you can create something that will work for you. Okay, sounds good. Well, hello and welcome to the show. I am your host today, Josephine Tite, and I'm joined here by my friend, Lindsay. So welcome to the show, Lindsay. It's good to have you.
Hi, Josephine. Thank you so much for having me today.
I know. So glad we got to do this. Maybe you could just start by sharing a wee bit about yourself with us.
Yes. As you said, my name is Lindsay Harrell Kadas, and I am most known as a values vixen. Because I love values, they saved my life. I believe that they are the core that transitions teams from not being so productive and connected to being uber productive, super connected, plus, how we find our joy in this world. Through that, I'm a neural change master practitioner. I'm a brand specialist consultant, and I am also the host of the Businesses Are People Too, a podcast. And I'm a dog mom, and that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, there's a little bit about Lindsay. I'm so glad that you've joined us so we can just share with listeners what is going on with you in your life and your well-being.
It's for anybody that has been burnt out. It takes way more than a week. I mean, the first week, last week was really about having to release my body to some degree. And because it was this tight. And so that doesn't happen overnight when you're like, now I'm off. It was oh my gosh, I'm not posting every day. I'm not answering emails. Oh my goodness. What do I do if I just put my phone on do not disturb the whole day? And you almost have these panic attacks. But then that kind of started to lift towards the end of the week. So it took a few days to come out of that. And then on the weekend, I was just like, all right, okay, you know what? I'm looking forward to this next week off because now I can start to clear my mind. I was, and kind of actually still am, struggling to remember what was it like to just go and have fun where you weren't worrying about something in the back of your head. And that I was like, great, that's what this week will be, because I had been able to start to do that last week. And yeah, I was just like in panic mode yesterday, being like, oh my gosh, 2 weeks off. You don't deserve that. How can you afford that? It's like, you can afford it. Like, don't worry, because at the end, like, you can.
The two yous are having this conversation.
You deserve
this. Like, you can't do this. You're letting people down.
But even looking back, you realize, oh, well, I've always been taken care of somehow, or I've always been able to take care of myself, my bills, all of that somehow when these extremes happened. So take it off, like just keep taking it off and enjoy it off, and just keep the non-work work that is going to be full of laughter and fun, and ultimately non-work conversation. But otherwise just be off. And I think going into the second week, those thoughts of, oh my gosh, now I'm off like LinkedIn for 2 weeks. Oh no, I'm probably going to lose but so those thoughts, and you just have to kind of work through that. But yeah, it's interesting.
That is interesting. And what I can think of just hearing you speak is that so many people can resonate with that and think, oh yeah, I've thought those thoughts. And like, being that you come to this equation from a very interesting lens, and maybe you can share a little bit about that. I wonder what tactics or possible tools, or like, are there tools that you consciously are using to process those thoughts because of where you come to this equation from? Or is it just, unfolding?
I do have tools. Sorry, it's just like, oh, otherwise I'd be hooped. But a lot of them specifically what I've really had to work on is this belief vision of this script that's going through my head. And there's a lot of anger towards it. And so I've been having to do a lot of that, but there is a lot of script rewriting and reworking that I've been having to do. And that is not fun at all. It's so much, it's not fun, but I mean, when it isn't addressed, which it hadn't been, because for the past few years, I had to be just this pillar of strength. I wasn't able to work through my own mental health stressors, triggers, any of that. And then at the end of March, there was this moment of almost permission given, and that of everything that was set off, that had been held back, let loose and flooded out. And so there's this balance of, well, we want to do our work, but sometimes if we have to be the pillar of strength because we're not the one who's the worse off and the other one is doing the work at that, like it becomes this interesting thing of, okay, well, now it's come to a point where you really need to do it. And that's been my journey really the past 6 weeks. And the most frustrating thing, and I said this to my mom too, is like, I have the gosh darn tools, right? Like I have them all. I know what to do. And that's, I think, often the frustrating thing is that we have the tools, we know what to do. We literally don't have any energy to do them. And because of the energy that it takes to work through a belief that needs to be revised, a belief of, I don't actually, of almost releasing that I have to be available to my clients the week after I give them a huge 50-page document to review because, that's their priority. It's not, right? These are all things that just have to be worked through.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. And so I think that's one of the biggest realizations, is that over the past couple of years, I had to use and read it and divert my energy elsewhere. So I knew I could deal with this at some other point, but until I was given that permission to be, nope, I'm good. You go take care now. Mm-hmm. It was just like, whew, here's all the thoughts that you've had that you have not been able to deal with. And so there's been a lot of lessons over the past few weeks, but the biggest one is we have the tools,
right?
But if we don't have that energy, it's so freaking hard.
I so resonate. I know often I come to this as a teacher to others, right? And for others. And I'm like, I got to use the tools myself.
Yeah.
There's this additional, like a layer of pressure that sometimes you put on yourself, right? And it's like, oh, I'm just like everybody else. And I sometimes can't keep up with it all. And sometimes I am going to fall and I'm not going to feel like using the tools. And that's okay, because I'm just human.
And isn't that hard though?
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
Because you do, like, especially with your brand and who you are as a person and the things you're putting out there on social media, it's like, this is me, this is who I am, and I do this, and this can help you. And and at the same time, you're like, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to admit to yourself, and also to just let people in on that.
Well, yeah. And I think, well, and I think that's just it, is like, I did a post before I signed off about failing. No, not that, because I don't even know what that is, but failing.
Right. Got you, Lindsay.
Oh, wait, this tongue, seriously, it's so gosh darn big. That's what I realized, having not really spoken much for the past.
Like, it needs to speak again. It's thinking about what it wants to say.
Right. But yeah, so I put out this post about failing.
Failing.
Yes. And and in sort of this pity me moment, but also here's what we can learn, because at least now we can come from it. But I think one thing that I realized as well is we always really only hear about like the books that people wrote that are #1 best sellers. And I'm like, I had a book too, and it's gotten great reviews and not a bestseller. Right. And so there's those whole things of like, I've got all this great stuff too, but they're not successes.
In whose
By
eye?
the typical definition of success and the amount of energy that's put in. Right. And so it's kind of that, but it's been an interesting time of, well, I've also failed at not knowing how to stop.
Right.
And now I'm practicing that.
And now you're practicing that. Yeah. Do you think that because you come to this place now where you realize complete and utter burnout that required more than just a week off, let's say. Now you're on week 2. If you would have noticed it sooner, do you think your recuperation time would have been a little less? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know.
It doesn't know. It just doesn't matter. You don't know.
Yeah, I honestly don't know, because I mean, it also depends upon, I recognized it. I didn't necessarily feel like I had permission to be able to finally breathe and then deal with it. Right or wrong, knowingly or not. But I think a lot of the times, many of us are just like, oh, I just need a really good weekend of rest. You get your good weekend of rest, you go back Monday and you're just like, hey, I'm good. And then by Wednesday, you're shot again because it just wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
That happens so often, but then what? You're just like, oh, maybe I just need a little bit more. Maybe just a little bit more, until it's, well, I just need it all.
Well, or it's a health issue or whatever, right? Yeah, it can progress into so much more.
Yeah, exactly. It manifests differently for so many. Yeah.
So it takes so what I'm hearing from you is that it takes a self-realization of some kind, for sure.
Yeah. And an ego dropping.
Right?
And an ego dropping.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're like, I'm a powerhouse. I got this, right?
Yeah.
It's a positive thing, but
well, especially, and there's like so many layers, because I've been movitioning. That's not a word, but that's the word that
we just created one.
I know. It's like transitioning and moving, but movitioning. What the heck? My business into the team health consultant support by turning brands into actions, blah, 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 right? And so I've been working on all of that. There'd been a lot of efforts made and traction made, and push. And so there was also that, well, I can't take time off now. I'm just pushing this ball and it's just starting to go. So there was that dynamic, as well as I'm just really tired because I'm transitioning or movitioning, I guess, it's my business into a different phase. So it's, when is the right time to take off?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, it's, you're building momentum and right. Yeah.
And then
how much more momentum will you build is the question.
Well, and there's also that, like, and I heard it via Sandler, with Hamish Knox and his team, of that Sandler rule of slow down to speed up. Right. And I always believe in it. But I'm just like, I always spout that to people. It's one of my favorite things to say. I have yet to do it.
Are you doing it?
Oh yeah, the number of movies I've watched, like, honest to goodness, I mean,
yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. And I've done like a little bit of my love blobs that I do on the side for people. So that's just fun creative work of, let's put some love out.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, what is that?
Love. Yeah, they're these guys here.
Yeah.
They're just little blobs of love, and then I do custom ones for people with little sayings. But so, I mean, that's just a form of, let's put some love, but that has not been a lot.
Yeah.
It's just been a practice of rest, a practice of stop, and trying to stop the guilt, because they have the conversation going on and just being like, take a breath. My mind is clear. This is okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. I just, again, I think that even with my business, because it's called Positivity Center, it gets this, bad rap, I guess you could say, where, it's all about being positive or thinking positive thoughts all the time. And, it's just not all about that. And I really love this conversation with you, because it just shows the nuances and the depth and the breadth of what well-being is, and that there is suffering in life, there is burnout in life, and it's something that we need to be aware of, and we need to respond. And I think the more we learn to respond, or even be more proactive in our response, the less reacting we have to do. So then the less screaming there is and panicking and freaking out about, oh my gosh, my life's going to just blow up, right? Because I see that happen to people where they just coast and don't pay attention to what's happening under the surface. And then I'm not saying that always, but there are many situations where I've heard of where all of a sudden someone's got a major health issue.
Yeah.
Not just a little health issue, it's a major one. And all along the way, your body and your brain have been talking to you, but you didn't listen.
Oh, golly, God, your body and your brain will tell you something is wrong before you, absolutely. I mean, but we're so conditioned to think, but not my, oh no, that's not me. That can't be it. I'm the exception. No. Right. So, oh.
Right. I mean, even just little things, like I think about just little body aches that I get, they're telling me something. It's like, I pay attention to that. My husband always tells me I pay way too much attention to my body, but I'm happy that I do, because then I deal with them as they come up, and I get down to the source instead of just dealing with symptom stuff. Right.
It's so funny that you say that, because, I, at the end of December, I fell, hit my head, letting the dog out to pee, and got a concussion. Clearly I didn't learn my lesson, because at the beginning of March, I slipped the exact same spot, letting the dog out to pee. And I broke my baby toe with my ass. But it's that my body was telling me to literally start paying attention, to stop being so just like boo, boo, boo. Right. And sure, it makes for a funny story that you broke your foot. I mean, you broke your baby toe with your butt when you let the dog out to pee one morning. Great funny story, because that's basically all you need to know about me in a nutshell. But it's a huge sign of when we really start to hurt ourselves, because later that night I chopped a chunk of my thumb off, right? So it's so good at the beginning of March. And so it's very, very clearly there are these signs that lead up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're little things too, right? Like you can tell your whole mind and brain weren't working in harmony with each other, because you've missed something, or you missed the ice. You missed the carrot, for example, right? It just telling you that there's something out of harmony.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I think it's creating the time to deal with the disharmony, the unbalanced state of your mind and your body, your brain and your body, if you will. So what are some things that you would say you noticed your brain or your body? I mean, those are two events. Was there anything else you noticed that was telling you, like, Lindsay, you're getting close to burnout?
Oh, golly. Yeah. My stutter was coming right on back. Yeah. So I stutter when I start to get very burnt out. The brain just doesn't function very, my brain specifically. There's just so much wanting to come through. The huge brain fog, things aren't firing quite right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest things I noticed is I'm just not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
No matter how clear my mind actually is.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
And I find myself I would consider myself pretty creative in a space. Like everyone's creative in some space. So I notice that if I'm burnt out or I'm not taking care of myself, my creativity drops.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It does.
Yeah.
The same on this side.
Yeah. I'm like, usually my creativity ends up in writing or creating programs. When I can't create a program, I'm like, I better go to bed, or something here. And actually, I really like how you're talking about noticing, because I think, well, burnout is, I think, in my personal opinion, and some people will disagree with this, but it is the pandemic to me, because I think that we're seeing a lot of people burn out because it just has a side effect of, what you're talking about. And the thing about it is that we're not noticing. And I'm actually right in there too. So I went away with my mom for a few days, and we were supposed to be away 2 nights, and I ended up staying away 3 because I just was like in tears. I was like, I don't want to go home. Like when it was time to go home, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go, like a little baby. I don't want to go home, because home just represented, financial stress, family relational stress, business stress. Like everything was just, because I operate from my home. So everything was just attached to my home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe how much I needed a break, not realizing, because I wasn't that I did the break to create a break. That wasn't why. The reason why is because my mom's not well. And so I prioritize spending time with her. So this was even a side effect of doing that, made me realize, holy crap, like you are so close to being burnt out and you didn't even realize it, because you're just pushing, moving ahead. Yeah. Keeping going. And I'm like, holy crap. And then I ended up doing another week away with her after that. And now I feel a whole lot more rested. And like how you talk about sort of having that space where you don't have those thoughts in the back of your head, like you're just in like rest and peace phase. Like that's how I felt for a good straight 5 days. It was just peace and rest, complete calm, no thoughts going through the back of my head. Didn't matter what I was doing that day. It was just like Zen, like that's what it felt like for 5 days. Like, whoa.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That was such a weird face.
Really, that's how I felt. It just really was. So, yeah.
Well,
and I did a show when I was away, and I'm like, this is great, because I like you, there are certain things that aren't, work. And this show was also basically created from a very low moment. Like I was in such a low space, and I'm like, I'm going to do this to move forward. And I know why. And it's about community and about talking about things that are real, and, how we approach this and what we can do and how we can share that with other people. So they go, oh yeah. Because this conversation is likely to connect with somebody who's like, maybe I am burnt out, and maybe I do need to stand like firm for myself. Because not everybody, we're both entrepreneurs. So even though there are some, there's with everything, there's a good and pro and a con. And so, yes, we can, create a lot of our own scheduling. And then there's other things we deal with. Like, like, how
it's sexy on the outside.
Right. But... how can I leave my client, right, with a 50-page document for 2 weeks? And then other people who, work these full-time jobs and have to show up, they have to advocate for themselves in a different way. For them, it looks like actually going to their boss and saying this, and this, my performance has suffered in this, and this way. I need to be off. Right. And I think it's really important also for employers to start to realize, and I think they are, that, again, being more proactive and less reactive. So giving people, more vacation time, or creating, less, dictatorship around how exactly their hours are spent, right? To give more flexibility. So we're achieving outcomes. We're still achieving outcomes, but we're less concerned with the how that we achieve those outcomes.
Yeah. Well, and that's a huge conversation that I'm having a lot of these days, is how do teams now start to feel reconnected or connected in the first place? During COVID itself, when like companies started to hire, they didn't need to hire in person. And so now how that they are bringing people back into the office, how do they include these people who actually aren't in the area and create that sense of community for stronger working teams, stronger connected teams.
Yeah.
So that, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious what you would share, because you've been so gracious to share a lot about what's happening with you personally, and thank you. Then from that angle, in terms of helping others, what would you suggest to somebody who may or may not be experiencing burnout? Well, may or may not be aware that they are experiencing burnout. What would you suggest in terms of an awareness tool, and then like a working through it tool?
Yeah. So, I mean, just like an awareness tool is simply, do you have the energy to do the things that you enjoy?
So good. What a great question.
If not, then it might be starting to have time to then it might be time to start either prioritizing that, put it in, recognize when is the end goal to when you can start. Anyway, there's a whole slew of other things, but yeah. Do you have energy to do the things that you enjoy?
Yeah. And before you answer the other half of the question, I was actually reading. So my 14-year-old son's quite a athlete. And so we were reading in this magazine about how much sleep pro athletes get. And they recommend between 70 and 80 hours of sleep per week. That's over 11 and a half hours per day. Like I've seen 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen 11 and a half. I mean, I would love that. Like, give me 11 and a half hours of sleep every night. I would take it. So, I mean, I think there's so much value in sleep, and just having had read that and saying to my 14-year-old, like, you should be napping when you come home from school. Basically, your 9 hours is not enough. When you come home from school, you should take an hour nap. Just plain as simple. Like, your body needs it. And gosh, that's a lot for an athletic body that's obviously performing at a high level all the time. But yeah, I think so many people don't get enough sleep. I'm not a sleep expert, but like,
no, I wasn't. And sleep's the time that our brain takes to restore itself, to go into the sciencey fun.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, tell me what the brain does when it's
I'm like, well, that's when it like goes and really reinforces the neural pathways that you created that day, or were reinforcing that day. And that's just when everything comes together, right? And you rest and you recoup. That's when it can, if you're hydrated properly, that's when it, anyways. Yeah. That's so.
So even those thought adjustments that you're making, if you're making them and not sleeping well, they're really not becoming normalized and not actually being accepted by your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's exactly it. And so often that's why, when people say, like, if you're going to do your gratitude journal before you go to bed, because then that's the last thing that you've really put into your brain. Right. And so that's how it goes in. But, if you're not sleeping, that can't go in. So no matter how many affirmations of that you do a day, if you don't believe, there's different forms. Some affirmations I don't believe in, neither here nor there.
I'm here. I'm
blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
So, right. And you're not getting sleep, you're hoot. Like, you're not actually creating the right pathway that will reinforce, that you're not giving it I don't know what your diet is, but even if you are feeding your body everything that it needs, drinking the right amount of water, you're exercising, you're educating yourself, right? And you're doing the right things to be healthy. If you're not getting the right sleep, then all that is for nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's not as impactful. And so, yeah, I think the fact that you're even saying to your teenage son, you should be going and having a nap. Well,
We'll see.
I mean, honestly, I probably think it's just so you get a little extra quiet time at the end of the day, but that's
for me, no, I don't need quiet time for him. He is an amazing preteen. It's crazy, but
awesome.
he does have high aspirational athletic goals, and he treats his body like it's that he is already. Like the way he monitors his sleep, his drinking, his nutrition is, I've not seen a kid his age who does that. He does better than I do. He inspires me. Put it that way. It's not the other way around. So he's open to having conversations. So when we come across new science or read about what Olympic athletes are doing, I think it's important for him to know. He can decide if he does that or not. Right now, he's like, well, I got to work out. So he's prioritizing a workout over the rest. And I'm sure he'll get to the place where he has to go, okay, maybe I should flip that.
Yeah. I shared, actually last week in my newsletter, I actually spoke a wee bit about sleep, and shared a resource, a book by Dr. somebody.
We'll put it in the notes. No worries.
It's called
Dr. somebody on sleep.
Yeah, but the book is called Why We Sleep. It's Dr. Matthew Walker or something like that. But Why We Sleep is what the book is called. And he talks about, because, and this I find really interesting. It's, again, like everything, it's a gosh darn practice shoot. But it's not about, and now I'm going to sleep 7 hours, which is where we almost all go wrong. When we're just like, hey, I'm going to go and sleep properly now. He talks about like incrementally increasing how you sleep. How do you prepare yourself for sleep? What are you doing, right, to support your sleep? And how? And in this particular interview that that he had with Dr. Chatterjee in 2021, he talked about how COVID was actually impacting people's sleeps and dreams, not like our aspirations, but like our actual sleep dreams. So no, and that was fascinating. But yeah, so if your sleep is also being impacted, if you're doing everything else right, you're like awesome, keep doing it. Now let's focus on
and
the
maybe
sleep
go
part.
there first.
Yeah.
So does that answer the processing tool? Is it a possible processing tool when you reach to burnout, or what would you say is either that, or maybe there's something else that comes to mind that you would share with someone who is in that space?
So I think, there's a lot of tools. Oh, actually, yeah. So one would be, here's one that I'm working on, is it's all about, identifying, it's not all, that's not what all burnout is, but I would say a lot of the times we get to burnout is because we have beliefs that say we cannot stop, we cannot. And so part of moving through that burnout time is, yes, sleeping, doing nothing, turning that brain off, letting everything just kind of heal, but also recognizing what got you to that point and what beliefs got you there. And so you can start to challenge those beliefs of, so it's, what is a belief that you hold about yourself that wouldn't allow you to take time off, and then how is this belief part of your identity? What goal of yours is it tied to, right? Because our beliefs, as you know, are very closely tied to our values, which are very close to our mind, which helps us set goals. And that's how it works.
It's how it works.
But then it goes into like, well, you start to challenge yourself with like, why this belief? Is it true? Is it really true? Is it really, really true? And so like get down to those layers.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you need to do to flip this? Like, what is the opposite of this then?
Okay.
And then where are you in between that? And how do you start to work towards that? What is this rewritten? I clearly haven't spoken this long in a long time.
And I'm sorry, I am bringing up your professional.
No, but I think that's just it. So it's identify the belief that you have.
Yeah.
You can start to understand, like, why is it there? Is it part of is it central to who you are and your identity? Is it causing more pain? What would happen if you didn't have this belief anymore?
That's a good question.
So then how do you start to move? What would happen if it doesn't? How do you start to move out of this belief?
Yeah.
And then what is this new belief that you're going to be operating from then?
Do you have, I love that.
This written down somewhere? I do.
Like a personal example, or even because it's the work you do with people, can you share an anonymous sort of working through of what that might look like?
Well, yeah, no, I've done this lots with me, and like one specifically that I had was when I worked with contract writers, when I did a lot more content development rather than the brand and team consulting. And one of the beliefs I had was I can't charge people for if someone else is doing the work. Right. And so there's that, like that prop, but I was doing all the prep work and everything to give the writer that they needed, but I had this belief of who am I to do, right? And so it was walking through, well, what does this belief keep me in? Well, it keeps me from growing, it keeps me from blah, but also it allows me to maintain control, because our beliefs, there's good and bad, there's a reason that it's there for whatever reason. When we understand that, we can then start to let that go. Like, okay, well, this very clearly served me at one point. It's no longer serving me now, because look at me, I'm freaking exhausted and I'm burnt to a pulp and I'm a miserable thing to be around. Although it's hard to say that about me. Right. And so you just work that belief right down. If you don't need it anymore, you can start to envision, well, what would happen if this belief was no longer, like what, and then you can start focusing on, well, what will it bring you?
Possibilities, right? Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean,
hopefully,
right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it did for me with my writers. Because it also what it means, I'm giving them opportunities to grow their own writing skills and understand new writing techniques and so on and so right. Like there was a lot of benefit there. And then how do I start to get there? And so I had to identify how to start to remove those beliefs and rework it. And then what's the new belief that I'm working with? And so I wrote that out. And every time I had that old belief come back in, I would catch it. You flip that and you say that belief.
Yeah. And so that's the work, is the notice the old belief, catching of it, and then rewriting it. Like, and it's
again,
not just
and
a one-time thing. It's it's over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So, well, this is my sort of final thoughts. I would say, like, if anyone is in sort of this, hovering around burnout, or maybe they don't feel they are, maybe this is an opportunity to pause and ask yourself if you are. And then if you determine that you are, this would be a great step to take. It's just, ask yourself, what are those limiting beliefs possibly that you have about yourself, and work through Lindsay's process that she shared with us so that you can get to a new possibility and a new belief. And just remember that, like you said, it's not just going to take a second, right? Or a minute or 5 or 10. But once you go through the process once, it's sticking to it and being consistently rewriting it. And I love that you share that personal example too, because frameworks are great, right? But then it's like, how does that work in real life?
Right? That's exactly it. Is frameworks are great, but a framework isn't real life. How can we actually use a real world example? And so thank you for asking.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on the show.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to Wellbeing That Works. Before you go, take 1 minute to write down your takeaway from today's guest. And be sure to download our Wellbeing Evaluation Sheet to help you along your wellbeing journey. And if you've got something to share to inspire others, be sure to be a guest on our show. Until next time, with love and kindness.